Look at that. We're live, folks. We even got Chris with us. Hey, folks, welcome to the call. If you are new to this, we're having an Ask Us Anything call. And we've got Chris Badgett with us. We've got Magic Will Middleton, and of course, myself, Kurt Von Onen. And we would love to entertain your questions, your thoughts, your concerns, anything about working with LifterLMS in the WordPress environment. With that, welcome to the call, Chris.
Awesome. Well, good to be with you guys. And for those of you out there watching, welcome. Ask us anything, whatever questions you have about LifterLMS, what your requirements are, and is it possible to do X, or how do I do X, or I just started using Lifter and I'm trying to figure out something. Just drop your questions. And on this Ask Me Anything call, for being on the call or watching the replay, we have a special gift for you. So we have a 50% off our first year for everybody, but for you, for being on this call, we have a 55% off your first year special coupon. And you can get that at lifterlms.com/AMA-gift. So check that out if you're into that. And we'll start taking questions, and I'll pass it back over to you, Kurt. We have a few that came in early before as people are joining the call as well. But over to you.
Cool. Well, usually what I do is ask Will what he's up to, or any new questions that we've gotten in the last week that he needs to address. And then I've got a couple from support that I can bring up if nothing else jumps in.
Is that a question?
I think it is. How are you, Will?
I'm doing all right.
Oh my goodness.
Man, I have been sleeping for about 5 hours a day on average. So I think, what have I been doing with LifterLMS? Building my own LifterLMS site now, membership and stuff, doing a lot of Elementor stuff again, learning new tricks with Lifter elements and tangibles. So a lot of LifterLMS Elementor stuff. I haven't really done any custom development last week.
The Elementor stuff is super interesting. I just got done talking to Ben, head of marketing over there at Elementor, and the AI stuff that they're coming out with. And I told you about using AI with our Cadence theme most recently. Dude, we're in a high-speed era right now. So if people sign into this, know that you can come to us with your questions, your thoughts, your applications, especially in using LifterLMS. So if that's the case, we welcome you to put those directly into the chat. So you want to go ahead and put any kind of questions or anything like that into chat so we can address you right away. And with that, I know that we've got a couple of questions. Chris, were there any that you wanted to focus on directly out of the chute?
Yeah, we can start with this one from Sandy. She was asking any workarounds to prevent authors and instructors from seeing the WordPress menu. I think she's talking about the back end, like the, just getting into the back end at WP-admin.
Yeah, so a couple of workarounds for that. And I'm just going to be blunt, Chris, because, I like to be a direct communicator. I'm all about use case. I'm all about what is your specific use case and why would you be worried about an author or an instructor seeing the back end or the WordPress menu? Because with LifterLMS, we have roles and capabilities. So each person in the system has a different role, and that role provides different capabilities inside the WordPress administration menu. And so, as an administrator, you're seeing, you can make changes to the theme, to design, to all kinds of things that a standard, instructor or an author creator might not see. So one, that use case right there is something to think about. The other thing is, a lot of folks just in general say, I worked really hard on the styling and the branding of my website, and I just don't want stakeholders, whatever their role is, to have access to the back end of the website. I only want them to see what we've designed and put on the front. And LifterLMS has a groups function that you can use in multiple ways. And so if you were to use groups to kind of put instructors or authors information with students into a group situation, if it's regarding student management, then I think groups is a really good way to administratively look at what a group of people is doing. What courses have they accessed? What's their current grades? What's their progress? All of that is front-end reporting available through groups. And I know that groups has a certain term or a certain assumption made with it, but I think if you begin to stretch kind of your use case perception of a certain tool, you can start to see that groups is actually really powerful for what it does. And then lastly, you could have something developed to work on the front end. We have a really aggressive API. We've got tons of people that are qualified and vetted in our experts list. That is lifterlms.com/experts. If somebody that's more talented than me wants to type that in comments. And the experts list is a great place to source having something like that developed for your website and for your use. Will, you have anything to add to that?
Let's see. Preventing authors from accessing the WordPress admin. There used to be an option, put an API in chat. There we go. Hey, there used to be an option called Admin UI Pro. Martin Short was on the podcast like a long time ago about that. I don't think that product's available any longer. Like what I would recommend people would do at the time is I would be like, hey, you can't prevent people from going to the WordPress admin if you want them to be making courses on your website. Like we don't have a front end course builder solution right now. I know Chris Lasser in the Facebook group has been doing some cool demos, making some cool stuff with his own knowledge of the API. So there are freelancers out there who can absolutely help you, and freelancers who have done it before. Like I've built front end course builders like years ago with Gravity Forms, but my recommendation is just to style the WordPress admin in a way, because usually it's an objection to like it says WordPress on the back end, it says LifterLMS. And so you can use things like Loco Translate, a free plugin to remove words like LifterLMS. You can probably swap out logos with custom development. And there are tools that let you make the back end of WordPress pretty. I think that's usually the main objection is I don't want this to feel like a WordPress website. And you can remove that feel. My first question is like, why? Why do you? But if you want to, if you insist on making it not look like WordPress, you can absolutely do that with some other methods.
Yeah. I'm really quick to ask that question why as well. And I really encourage people that are watching this live or watching it as the replay, as we might put this up on one of our pages. Whenever someone comes up and says, oh, I need this, or I need that, or I need the other, if it's something that's off the beaten path, even if it's yourself, don't be afraid to ask yourself, like, why do I feel like I need to do this? Like, where have I seen this successfully implemented before? And why do I think it's a need here? I've been doing a lot of research lately on SCORM and SCORM's applications in WordPress. And through that, I used to use SCORM quite a bit as a corporate training manager. So, I've got knowledge of SCORM and I've got knowledge of WordPress, and I know that we can blend those to work well together. But then I started really looking at some use cases, Will, and that's where I'm starting to see where some of like what I normally think of as a crazy WordPress question, like some of it's coming from that arena, from that space. I need this with timers. I need this with quiz answers. I need this with and I would think, having been with the WordPress and LifterLMS development for so long now, sometimes people come up with why we must have, and then I was like, where does this must have stuff come from? And then I started really doing some research on SCORM and what we're really migrating over. And I'm going, oh, that's why they think that's a must have, because like the first thing when you set up a Moodle website, I don't know if you guys have set up Moodle, but if you set up a Moodle website, the first thing it shows you is a calendar on the page. Like when you open up your new Moodle installation, it shows up with a calendar. And so a lot of people go, oh, hey, we need a calendar or a scheduling tool. And I'm like, if you're selling asynchronous learning that people can do whenever, why are you asking me for a calendar? And they're asking for a calendar because it's the first page of Moodle, but it has nothing to do with asynchronous e-learning, right? It's just something that they're used to. And so sometimes I think asking that question or trying to drive down to a business cause is really important and can save a lot of money. Is that fair to say, Chris? Saving people money?
Yeah, that works. Who doesn't like that? I also wanted to share another resource we have. This is a blog post we have that was contributed by the creator of Login WP. And there's a we'll put a link to that in the chat. But this is a really powerful plugin that you can redirect users from the WordPress admin with all kinds of different rules, even specific users to specific places. There is some off-the-shelf tools to modify what happens in the back end or not. But like you were saying, Kurt, sometimes there's just things that are essential, like course building, that if you want a user to be able to build the course, an instructor role person, they need to be able to go into the back end of the website. And we do have some front end tools like groups that provide like an entirely front end experience for managers and teams. But what we have is pretty good. So just throwing that out there, and keep it simple. Keep it simple. That's always what I always go back to. When people ask me a question, first I find more information, and then I'm like, all right, my first thought is Occam's razor. What's the simplest solution here?
Simple's a big one. We talk about that quite a bit actually on these calls. A lot of the Ask Me Anything responses come down to, well, what's the easiest or the simplest way to connect these two dots? And a lot of the advice we give really is, if you don't already have, paying members in a membership site. I mean, if the goal is to have a paid membership site, if you don't already have a tribe, paid members, if you don't already have a business, but you're trying to build like the perfect website, the perfect mousetrap, the best branding, the best tools, the best connectivity, my advice is actually the opposite of what seems natural thinking. My advice is launch something, get a course up, get something going, get some energy going. And as you attract people to that minimal viable product, and MVP is what we say a lot, as you attract people to that MVP, well, then that energy then becomes the driving force for, well, now we need these social tools, or now we need these chat tools, or now we need this, and then you can begin to grow and expand with your community, rather than trying to exhaust yourself building the perfect mousetrap and then never really launching. It becomes a fear of launching, or an expert's curse over a certain amount of time. So we really encourage people to get in, get something developed quickly, have an MVP, launch it, and then grow it over time, and really start to see the benefits of growth powered by finance.
Awesome. I love that. We had a fun question here. I'll just put it up from sorry, I'm trying to pronounce the name, Nucleclo. Can I get a job if I'm excelling? So this is we have a survey that goes out like, hey, if maybe the time zone's inconvenient and you can't make this call, or maybe you have an idea and you are going to try to attend the call, and you want to make sure you capture that and get us looking at the question. So in the email, use the link to the form and put in your question so we can address it. But can I get a job if I'm excelling? So this is a fun topic actually, because this is a ask me anything about LifterLMS, but this applies to helping people develop in your course, whatever it is you're trying to do. And you want, obviously you want your students to be successful. It's really the same thing with, working at a company. I'll just tell a quick story. We recently hired a new developer at LifterLMS, and we had maybe 100 pretty decent, strong applications. It's always really challenging because there's a lot of demand for different roles at different jobs and stuff. But one of the things our new developer, Brian, did during the job application process is he went to the LifterLMS GitHub repository, and he fixed a bug that was in the GitHub. And he just did it. Didn't ask him to do it. We had this sample project period where people get projects, but he wasn't even waiting for that. He just started fixing things, showing commitment, engaging with the code and stuff like that. I think about that in marketing and sales as an example. Like if you want to get a job at any company with sales, become an affiliate, like create some sales in advance. Like, so I don't know your situation, if you're more of like a developer, a designer, a marketing salesperson, but there are ways to get involved with companies before you even there's a job opening. And it's not like, hey, work for free and, it might work out. It's like, just show a little commitment and engagement. And, it doesn't take long to, if you wanted to work at LifterLMS in marketing as an example, to like put a video on your YouTube channel and about Lifter. Will on this call has done that in the past, and really got involved with the community around the product. So did you, Kurt. So actually, I think I was listening to a pre-sales call you guys both did with before. This was maybe 6 months ago, and somebody asked a similar question, and you guys both told the story of how you guys got involved. Like you guys were both on the Office Hours Mastermind call, which happens in about an hour and a half from now. And that's, and then over time you got involved in the community, you started helping other LifterLMS people, helping out, answering questions and things like that. And it just kind of evolves. I think that's how the job market kind of works these days. It sounds really, not strange to say, but like when I'm hiring, I almost never look at like the educational background. That's important. I'm a believer in education, but I look at what you can do, and more importantly, what have you done? And like, how interested are you in this type of work? Like, how are you self-learning? How are you developing? So that's a lot, but I just wanted to throw that out there, and I pass it over to you guys. How do you think about getting jobs at a company these days when it comes to, the approach?
This is going to sound horrible that now that you've put us on the spot. I get solicited all the time, people that want to work for Manana no Mas, developers in other countries. And it's just, it's a hard, cold DM or personal message through some social platform. Dude, zero consideration, none, like just none. For me, it comes down to, have we met before? Have we discussed anything before? Have we been in a meeting together? Which doesn't sound fair, but it's real. So not everything in business or life is fair. Before I really started working with the LifterLMS, Chris, you know this, I wasn't really big in the community, right? And then since, it's like I've worked with you, I've worked with WP Tonic, I've gone to WordCamps, I've joined WordPress meetups. I actually host the WordPress meetup in Hutchinson, Kansas now. And through that work, through those interactions, I've met tons of people, and those are the people that are going to have the first considerations for me to do work with, because I've begun to see them as active people within the community, which to me has become more important than whatever famous fact or whatever you can send me in a cold email.
Yeah, that's very well said. And I think that part of the thing, just to build on that a little bit, the part of it is, instead of doing the shotgun approach of like, oh, I'm going to do 100 job applications today or this week. Like, if you want to get a job at a WordPress company you like pick 3 and get involved in their communities, try to get to know the folks, and demonstrate some skills in the community. It's like a community thing these days.
I don't want to give away I can't really give away all the mojo, but just yesterday, last week, I reached out to someone via voicemail and left them a message. Someone that was in my phone's contacts list for the last 6 years. And then they posted something on LinkedIn yesterday, and I followed up with that on LinkedIn with, hey bro, I just left you a voicemail on LinkedIn. And so the phone rang, we had a great conversation, and it led to the introduction to someone that could be a great contact for me for business. People need to leverage who they already know. And remember that the average person that you're connected to on, like, say, Facebook is also connected to 500 other people. The average connection list on on LinkedIn is over 500 people now. So if you work your current network and you get warm introductions to people, that's a lot more valuable than a cold email or message in social. See, rough, hard facts. We're not even talking about LifterLMS right now. We're just talking about life.
Yeah.
Let's go on to the questions. You got a question here that we stole here, Chris, from Jesse.
Yeah.
Says, I'm using LifterLMS, Elementor, and have the required plugins. I love the structure of the course pages, but I want them in my site styling. Is there any way I can edit them or move them into Elementor templates without having to recreate the entire page? I feel like we just need to pass this one to Will. He's already got videos on YouTube on how to do this.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess there's a few ways to engage with this. Like, I like to use a plugin called Tangible LifterLMS. It's the one that's been around now for like probably the longest amount of time as a LifterLMS Elementor integration. That one, really the feature you're looking for is the ability to add templates to courses and lessons. I actually have a video that I'm editing now about how to do that in a unique way, how to add taxonomies to lessons and apply templates just to those. But when you enter into LifterLMS and Elementor, you combine the two together, you're entering into like relatively complicated space of like, now we need to consider how these tools are going to be working together and what all the implications of that are. So it's just like some more thinking and some more research that goes into it, but it's definitely possible, and it's definitely a design upgrade if you choose to go that way. So I like your thinking there, and some people do like to activate Elementor on a one-by-one basis. I don't know if I have time in this to sweep up Elementor Pro install and demo it, maybe in a bit. But jumping to the back end of my site, when you install Elementor, you'll have that option for anybody who's interested in using their page builder to customize their LMS site. You'll have an option to customize course and lessons individually, but what was it? Jesse C is asking is that we want to be able to do this in a template. So we don't want to do this one by one on each individual post, but we want to do it on a large scale. We want to do this on like all my courses at once or a bunch of my courses at once and select which of the courses templates apply to. And we can absolutely do that. And like Chris said, check out some videos I have on YouTube. But I think probably the easiest way to describe doing that is just the free core plugin of Lifter alongside Elementor's got this wizard going on. The free core plugin in Lifter alongside Elementor Pro does allow you to create templates, right? So you can apply templates to courses, but if you want to do lessons, that's going to require something like Tangible LifterLMS. Or Saeed Masri from our community has Liftor as a plugin, Liftor. He's been supporting that one for years and is a super good contributor. I mean, he's an example of one of those contributors who shows up in the community and contributes a lot in terms of you being a community contributor and looking for work in the space. And so you have Liftor option, Tangible LifterLMS. Those are your main options for LifterLMS and Elementor when you're looking at templates and doing it on a large scale. I don't know if that I read Jesse's question again. Yeah, so once you do activate into either of those products, you will have more options to be able to go to templates, add new, select single post as what you're going to build a template for, and then get into the Elementor builder and apply that template to all your courses or courses in certain categories or even more complicated settings than that. If you wanted to get more specific, it's a deep rabbit hole. I go into it in a free course on my website for like hours, and I'm creating even more content about it. But for basic Elementor users, people who are just looking to get into the platform and see what they can do on their course and lesson pages, you can check these boxes for courses and lessons in the Elementor settings for what post types you can use Lifter on or Elementor on. Then when you reload, you'll see that Elementor button at the top of the page that's available for you to launch into the editor. We have some short codes out of the box to support your experience building in page builders. I just remembered last night I did this massive Divi thing of like building lessons in Divi, and so that's another page builder. That's a popular one for people to use. Page builders are a little more complicated than the core, but everything is possible if you put in some effort with it.
All right. I just looked up one of your YouTube URLs, and I was amazed at how old it was.
I know. I was on a client call and people, I'm like, dude, that video was like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And he's like, oh, well.
Well, I'm going to put it in there anyway because it's
Still true.
Nice to get people to be able to slow down and go at their own pace sometimes. So there we go. So I got that added to the system there. We'll pop that up on the screen. And it's a weird URL, right? So I'll lead up there for a moment so people can have a moment to write it down or take a screenshot or whatever it is they need to do. You mentioned LiftDoor. I've tried LiftDoor, and I was really surprised at just how intuitive it was. Like, I downloaded it, I put it on, I used Elementor, and it just kind of worked. But I think we need to have a caveat to the conversation. And the caveat to the conversation is I don't want to say you don't want to, but there is no need to over stylize or over focus on custom design for lessons and courses. And I have a really basic kind of like business mindset to kind of have that conversation. And feel free to tell me I'm wrong. You guys can tell me I'm wrong. But sometimes when I'm talking to clients, I'll say, well, is this a paid course? Like if it's free and you're giving it away and all that stuff, that's one conversation. But if you are, putting a gateway on this thing, you've got access plans in place and you're charging money for people to get in to see this content, remember that your sales material, the stuff on the front end of your website, is all branded. It's you made that. You branded it, you've designed it. It's all whatever you wanted it to be. And then I try to think of courses and lessons and stuff like that to be that back of paywall experience. People already paid. They already bought your branding and your sales messaging on the front of the website. And now what they really want is the value that you promised to deliver. They signed up with you because you're fixing some pain point in their life. And what they're looking for is access to that content. The display of that content is not nearly as important once the sale has been made. So in a lot of respects, I coach a lot of my clients, hey, let's focus on the front end of the website, the thing that unenrolled people see, and then let's focus less on what enrolled people see because they're already part of the community. They're already in, they're already part of it. And back to that conversation of MVP, get launched, get something going. And if you want to come back after you've got 100 paid users or 200 paid users and you've got revenue coming through the site and you want to freshen up the look of a lesson or the look of a course, then that's a really good time to freshen things up and then have an audience to go back to that says, hey, announcement, we've just freshened up the look of our lessons and courses. Let us know what you think. What's your feedback? But then you've got an audience there to give you that feedback. So I think it's really important to focus on the launch and the pathway to revenue first. And then some of that other stuff, you can kind of fix that breadcrumb after you go.
I agree.
All right. What else you want to hit on? You want to hit on Jason's question? Jason's question is kind of interesting. What are our recommendations for single sign-on type tools?
I know. I just want to say some of the ones I've seen people at Lifter use the most successfully is a service called Mini Orange. I'm not an expert in Mini Orange, but I see people successfully do complex single sign-on situations using that tool. So just throwing that out there. There's also WordPress plugins, like social login plugins where you can log in with Google and Twitter and LinkedIn and things like that. So those are worth exploring. But that's all I have on that one.
Well, and I think this jumps back into use case again, Chris, because everyone's got a different interpretation of this question. And so he's saying like with Google, Microsoft, Apple, etc. I think those social logins work really good for that. But I've had a couple of clients that have come to me and said, our HR department, because it'll be for corporate use, maybe it's not a course that's being sold. It's more like an intranet kind of training platform than what we think of as, for the public. And so they'll say, well, we want our users to use their work email and it has to be ported through this HR platform or whatever that is. And that's a really good example of the power of the REST API or different automation tools that can connect to other things. And so there's a lot of cases where For instance, I had to connect a client's website to a Dynamic 365 example, and I made the mistake I always make this. Someone says, "Can I do this?" And I went, "Oh yeah, WordPress, we can do anything." and then I had to figure it out. But we did. We got it figured out. And then so what would happen is the students would register through their Dynamic 365 account, their HR account at work, and then that would, get them access to their learning content in LifterLMS. So there's all kinds of ways to do it, but if it's a social sign-on kind of thing, those third-party plugins directly from the WordPress repository work awesome.
Awesome. Here's a question from Shelly. How do I go into each student and see what courses they purchased? Will, do you want to pull up a LifterLMS reporting and show how to drill into a student?
Sure. So I don't know if we have that on the user part of the page or of the website, but like Chris said, under LifterLMS reporting is where you'll find a lot of your data for your users, a lot of your data for your courses, and a lot of overall sales metrics. If you're looking for some of that longer reporting, you can also export all of this stuff as CSV files, which is a spreadsheet file. You can put that in Google Docs or in Google Sheets, Microsoft Excel. So this is all exportable to an Excel format if you want to create your own custom reports. But for viewing some data specifically on a student, let's see somebody got some progress. So we have Cade Ledner here. This is a test user on my demo site. Let's click into their user profile and we can see their email. We can see some overall information about them, but we can more specifically see the courses that they're enrolled into, and we can see the status of their enrollment. We can see their current grade, and we can see their progress through the course. We can also see some things related to private areas or the private posts that have been created for them. If we're doing that, I am actually in I pay a LifterLMS user for their LifterLMS website, the courses that they're teaching, and they use private areas all the time. It's like a coaching plus courses thing. So that's a cool way to be able to access private areas, which is an add-on I haven't really used at all. I mean, in client work, I've set it up for other people, but I've not really engaged with that product one-on-one before. But now that I'm engaging with it one-on-one almost every week, I see the real value in having those coaching items accessible for each course, for each user right here from this panel, especially when you're a coach managing a lot of students. It's useful to see all this in one place. You can drill into the course for each of the students, see their progress. You can link over to their quizzes. You can mark some things incomplete or complete for them. There's just some stuff you can do here on the back end for each student. See some things, download their certificates, things like that. But yeah, I mean, is that kind of what we're looking at? Cool.
And I just want to add too, just a pro tip. If you are using LifterLMS with WooCommerce, which about maybe 20 or 25% of our people do, WooCommerce, there's a tool. We sell the LifterLMS software with WooCommerce, but there's a tool called Metric that integrates with WooCommerce that gives you like super advanced sales reporting. So you can do everything around like churn and lifetime value and do cohorts of customers and really advanced sales reporting. So you have a lot of options in the ecosystem. The LifterLMS out of the box its native reporting is really powerful and adequate for most people. I do want to recommend the PDFs download add-on we have. Will and I just did a feature Friday about that, where you can download lots of options, like different reports and views from the back end and the front end of the website, particularly with certificates and groups. So that's another good add-on.
Yeah, I think a lot of the add-ons from LifterLMS add functionality to that back-end reporting. So if you're looking for something related to, like Chris said, I don't know if notes can be accessed from there. You might have to switch to the user for that. But you have the private areas, you have the PDFs, bunch of add-ons I'm forgetting about, advanced quizzes, assignments, like this stuff. When you install assignments, it's going to appear in your reporting automatically. So the add-ons that add additional functionality will frequently feature things in the reporting too.
And there's also the switch user feature. So if you wanted to know just a specific user, you could add the plugin for switch user, and then you could literally in the users list just become that person, go to their My Account page, their dashboard. It'll tell you what courses they're in, give you access to notes and things like that. Sometimes it's, as an instructor, you want to know if a student's engaged or not. that new notes feature that we came out with is a really great way to know, hey, are they taking notes? Are they recording any highlights for themselves? And when you have a student in a coaching session that seems lost, you could go back to, well, gee, are you taking any notes, right? And if they are or not, but it's good to open up that conversation from a professional instructor's perspective and go, oh, we can do this. But yeah, Will's showing you right now how you can sign in as somebody else and see all the courses that somebody's enrolled in, their progress, their grades, their notes. There's all kinds of stuff with that Switch user account that you can get into and look at. So if you go through reporting gives you that view of all the students. You export it as a CSV file, and now you've got bulk data to look at. If you're just curious and you want to confirm something for an individual, you can use Switch user instantly on screen and just do it on screen. And if you had them in groups, you'd be able to look at a student in groups and see what they were auto-enrolled in through that group, along with their progress and grades.
We got another question here from Danny. It's actually 2 questions, so we can take it in 2 parts. Does the LifterLMS Universe Bundle have digital downloads? So Will and I did a feature Friday about how to do digital downloads using memberships. So basically what you do is you take a membership, you put your digital download on a page, you restrict access to it, either the membership homepage or a page that contains a bunch of downloads, and you sell access to that through the membership. It's another good reason to potentially use WooCommerce integration, because WooCommerce and Lifter work really well together, and they have a digital downloads type of product type. So if you're doing digital downloads, you're doing courses, you're doing t-shirts, you're doing events, and you're kind of getting outside the scope of just courses and memberships, then something like WooCommerce really comes into play and shines well there. So that's possible. Anything else you guys want to add before the part 2 of this question?
People are going to make fun of me, but I still use easy digital downloads.
If that's all you're selling, if all you're selling is ebooks or music files or some MP3s or whatever, use that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then Will and I actually did a thing on one of these lives where Will went through a whole setup for add a button here, put it in a lesson. People can buy access to it with an access plan. They get the download after and set this whole thing up like a real funnel. It was really cool. We did that 2-3 months ago or something, wasn't it, Will?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I do recommend that setup if you're going to be creating a lot of downloadable resources. You can use courses, course categories, LifterLMS out of the box. I think scoping out where your business is going and making a plan of we're going to start selling some ebooks. We're going to make 1 ebook a month, and we're going to do this for 6 months, and we're going to see what the adoption of these ebook products are. And then we're going to decide whether we're going to move forward with it or not. When you have a plan like that, when you have it laid out like that, it makes it really easy to figure out what tech tool you're going to use to deploy it. When you just kind of make resources and then try to figure out what you're going to do for the business, then it's a lot more, it opens the door for a lot more complexity when it's oh, okay, well, maybe let's install WooCommerce now. But it's well, maybe we're not at the point where we need to install WooCommerce. Maybe that's what we do 6 months down the line when we decide that the ebooks are working and we really want to lean into it.
Part 2 of the question here is about corporate memberships and groups, basically. So I'd pass that over to you, Kurt, on corporate and groups and how to think about that using LifterLMS.
Groups is one of the favorite things for me to actually talk about because I've found so many different use cases for groups. For the longest time, when LifterLMS first came out with groups, I was thinking of it in terms like buddy boss groups, or thinking of it in terms of social platforms and groups. And then reality kind of hit me one day, and I was like, wait a minute, it's not really a social thing at all. It's an administrative thing. So when you start to think of it from the term of administration, it makes a lot more sense. So think about the idea of groups. So let's say that you're a course creator and you sell a course that's really attractive to small to medium-sized companies. And these small to medium-sized companies are typically going to enroll 50 to 100 people in your course product. What you can offer them is the ability to have their own course page. And we can open up a screen share of this. I'll open one up here. Let me go to a window, Chrome tab. Oh, that's not where I'm at. That's not where I'm at. That's not where I'm at. Let's go the other way. Entire screen, share, edit course. So I'm here in my demo window here, and we could put in groups. And if you wanted to give somebody a group, you would say add new. And when you open up that group, you can see it's kind of like almost a Facebook page experience. So they can change the profile picture here. They can change the cover image, which now gives this, small to medium sized company almost like a personalized branded experience within your learning management system. And that's something that's really valuable to a lot of, enterprise level customers. So they get to name the group. You can change the slug so that it changes, the URL to it. The visibility can be open, private, or closed, right? And so whether it comes up on your groups listing or not inside your website. And then what's really cool about it is course or membership. And a lot of folks get confused when we talk about courses or memberships. They'll say, well, I didn't really want to have to sell memberships, But then when you talk to folks, it's like they have 10 courses and 5 courses might be of a certain genre, and a couple of courses might really go well together, and 3 courses might go well together. If you have a group of courses that go well together, then what you can do is bundle those together in a membership. So if I have 10 courses on my website, but the group only wants to take 5 of them, I'll sell that group so many seats of access for all 5 of those courses in a custom membership. And then when I add that membership, they'll automatically enroll the members that accept the invitation to the group into those seats that they've pre-reserved, right? And so when you make a group and you give it to a group leader to manage, which is another one of the wonderful things about groups, if you've ever run a learning site before and you've had lots of people, especially corporations, they're always asking for reporting. And so administratively, it started to become a job just to tell group managers what their people were doing. Like every week they wanted a report. Well, if you have groups, they can go in themselves right through the front end and pull a report and take a look at the report of who's in the group and what's happening. And so I really enjoy that part. And then under members, they can invite members to take an invitation to join the group. So that's kind of like, in a nutshell, kind of why I love groups so much, is because it gives me the ability to sell multiple seats at once to one person. It also lets me offload the administrative duties to the customer, which they actually enjoy because they get to, they have access. So they get front end reporting, they get to manage their users, they can see who's accepted the invitation, who's participated in the courses, and what their current grades are if you're using quizzes and grading. So it'll have all that. And they have the ability to brand it themselves. They can put an about us section in there and they can say, oh, welcome to our training course. We subscribe to this for your benefit and we love our employees and isn't this a great benefit, and have a picture for themselves at the top of the page. And all of that is without you having to create something extraneous like a subdomain or something crazy. Because before groups, do you guys have a mental flashback, remembering that? Like when people would ask us, oh, should I create a subdomain for this customer and duplicate the courses and clone things and have all these different page builds going on so that they could host groups of people in their site? And now that we have groups, we can just say, no, just give them a group, and then they can brand their own page. People accept the invitation. Once they're enrolled, when they sign into the site, they're going to go to their dashboard. They're going to click on their course. They're going to take their learning, complete their quiz, and then it'll all get reported on the front end, and you don't have to worry about it as the course creator or admin anymore.
Yeah, and just to get on the same page of language, like groups is like a broad name, and we have solutions for all different types of groups. Group administration, that's LifterLMS groups like Kurt's describing. Social groups, we have an add-on for that called social learning.
Yep.
Groups of courses bundled together, that's a membership. So it takes a while. I know, like, we understand it because we've been around the product for a while, but it's important to kind of separate out those 3 different types of groups and just know that we have a solution for all those.
You mentioned the social learning, and I just wanted to touch on that too, Chris, because we've had people say, well, how do I let students communicate with each other that are in a course? Or how do I let students, reach out or feel more integrated with the learning material? And I used social learning for a long time before I even realized that it had like a separate discussion for each course.
Yeah.
It's a well-developed, do I want to call it, I'm going to say it and I'm probably going to get criticized, but it's a well-developed light social add-on for a learning site.
It's
And
not Facebook. It's not a multi-billion-dollar company.
and it's not Buddy Boss. So
Yeah.
I think it's really, because like a lot of people will run to Buddy Boss, but I think if we're honest, a lot of people go to Buddy Boss, which I think is like an extreme jump, like from nothing to everything. And it can be a little bit of an overwhelmed situation for folks. But social learning through LifterLMS is a really great, first step in social. It's a really great way to integrate communication with your students peer-to-peer.
That's awesome. Here's a fun question. Is there a CSV download option for the sales report? And I'll just pull up my screen here and do a little share on that. Give me a second just to get my stuff together here.
Hey, I'm glad it wasn't just me.
No, see,
I
this
was
is
like,
the
what are
problem.
these tabs?
I don't know how news anchors do it, although actually they have entire teams of people running the tech. They're not doing the show and the tech and all the stuff at the same time. So I think we do a pretty good job. So these are LifterLMS orders. What we do have, if you go into an individual order, if you're using LifterLMS PDFs add-on, you can download the order right there. And you have your order information right here. So that's a downloadable order. The sales reporting is over here. And you can see, like, here's where you can export all the student data, courses you can export, memberships, you can export assignments, you can export quizzes, you can export in sales. We have this filterable view. So if you want to like look at a specific course, you can see what's happening there. I don't have a bunch of data in here, but this screen does not yet have downloadable reports. I understand. I'm taking note of that would be useful, but you can definitely get at the information in orders. And I don't know, this might be a good question for Will. Is there a way with a view like this in WordPress, a list view like this, where you can kind of download or print this stuff? Do you know of a plugin for that, or any way to kind of export a table off of WP Admin?
Oh, a table? I don't know how to export a table, but I mean, WP All Export is nice. That's kind of my go-to when I'm just trying to export anything. But yeah, I think you do need, I mess with that one a lot. WP All Import Pro, WP All Export Pro. Those are plugins I use a lot. I would go to those first. Because with WordPress out of the box, you can download an XML file, but that's not usually something that's very easy to open and parse through. I think we really want a CSV, a spreadsheet file. So I'd recommend WP All Export for that as a go-to.
Awesome. Yeah. Here's another fun challenge from Justin. Basically, when a user completes a final lesson in a course, how can we set up a redirect for that? That's an interesting feature. I like that idea. We don't have like a setting for that, but can you guys think of anything to do there?
Yeah, there's LifterLMS is a custom code snippet for it. I've used it on a client site before, where it's like select the course. I might be able to find it here in the background, but some custom PHP code for it. Otherwise,
Well, that's a good
I-
solution right there. I didn't
Yeah.
realize. So we have, let me explain what the snippets, PHP snippets are. LifterLMS has a huge library of PHP snippets. One of the ways we develop our product is, when somebody asks for something and we've kind of heard it several times and it's not a feature yet, we might make a snippet for that. And then if we see a lot of people are using that, we might turn it into a full-fledged feature or even product. So there is like a whole snippets library that would require a developer to implement, but and we have the LifterLMS experts for that. But it's totally fine to be like 95% happy with LifterLMS and hire a LifterLMS expert or figure it out yourself on how to add like a custom feature like that doesn't quite exist yet.
And I wanted to present another option for people who are not looking to get into the custom code. There is the automated WP integrates with LifterLMS. They have a redirect action, right? So you can do, like the trigger would be complete course. The action would be redirect user to URL. So there is an option with a no code solution too.
Very cool.
And my head went the other way. I was like, I don't necessarily have to redirect them to another URL, but I could employ the automation of a CRM to send them a congratulatory email that links them to an upsell product, like any funnel would.
Yeah, and even like the last lesson can have an assignment in it, and an assignment can have a checklist item in it, which can have a link in it to your last step is to go here, or even just make one last lesson that's nothing but a giant button that says go here next. There's like lots of workarounds for this kind of idea.
Go here next.
You can also do things, I've done this before, where LifterLMS has that display blocks based on enrollment and all this stuff. You can display blocks based on completion status. You say when like a student, I think what I did was weird on this website. I said like when they complete a course, they get enrolled into another one, and it's just like a placeholder course. But if you're enrolled in that course, it puts a big banner on the top of the site that says view your certificate here, because users could not find their certificates. It had a pop-up on screen, it's in their dashboard, but they still couldn't find it. So I had to put a big banner on the top of the page. It never goes away, that once you complete the course, it says look, click this to view your certificate. And so that is possible with Lifter too.
And I just thought of one more too. We have a Zapier integration, and this is actually a Zapier we use in the LifterLMS Academy. When somebody completes like the Quick Start course as an example, there's a Zapier that automatically enrolls them in the next course they're going to need, which is about how to get your first 10 students. So that's totally possible, and that's a no-code solution using our Zapier integration. We've had a lot of questions today about printing and PDFs and stuff. So here's another one. John was asking, how do I offer printable certificates? So I wonder if you could throw that up, Will, a demo of just working with certificates in the dashboard.
Yeah, so many LifterLMS users are probably familiar with the backend of engagement certificates. This is where you're going to create all your certificate templates, and then when students earn those certificates, because you've set up engagements to fire those certificates when a student completes a course, we can issue a certificate to them. And all of those certificates that are issued will end up here in awarded certificates. So as a website admin, I can view these items, I can download these items, and I could send it to them myself, or on the front end of the website, we can see these as well. So jump to the front end of the website, go to my account, and then go to, I'm on a WooCommerce install right now, my certificates. I can view this certificate on the front end of my website. And question here about, can I do printable certificates? So all of your certificates will have this option to print, and that's going to use the print dialog of the computer or the phone. So that's going to be specific to the device that your user is looking at this on. If you're using the LifterLMS PDFs add-on that Chris had mentioned earlier, you got the save button that's automatically just going to download a PDF to their phone or computer. When they click this button, But the printable is always going to be an option, whether you're using the free plugin, the Earth bundle, no matter what level you're at, you're going to have that print option. And users can choose to save as PDF when they print this. I don't know if I click print, does my print dialog show up? It doesn't show up on stream.
No.
But just a regular print dialog. Choose if you want to save it as a PDF, print it there, and that's kind of the default option for that.
I also like that you can enable sharing and then turn sharing off if you want. So it creates a link that people can share on social, and then if you turn the sharing off, then that link goes dead.
Yeah, which is a great feature if you're using your certification to help you get a job. Going back to one of our earlier questions, like, hey, I'm certified at this. By the way, here's my certificate where I learned this. Some of our most successful users are creating courses and training to help people in some way in their career, whether it's get into a school, pass a test, continuing education. So yeah, it's just a big opportunity in the LMS market.
Cool. Well, Chris, before we run out of time, I wanted to throw this up on screen. We've got a new value for folks that have stuck it out and stuck with us on the call, especially the folks that have asked questions. We've got a gift for you. So ask me anything, AMA-gift, lifterlms.com/AMA-gift. And I think it is a gift, Chris. What, 55%?
55% off your first year. So a little special hookup for engaging with us live. So that's lifterlms.com/AMA-gift. And I want to encourage you folks out there, when you get the email about this call, there's a form on there. We had a couple questions come in there. Feel free to come into the live call. There's a link to the StreamYard registration, or watch it on your favorite social media channel where we're streaming to as well. And feel free to come back next week, and we can go over questions like these. We know people have a lot of questions when they get into LifterLMS, especially when they're considering it and they're considering making the investment. So we're here for you. It's okay to ask whatever question you have, and we're happy to help. But
yeah. And just to be super clear on that, Chris, I mean, we get a lot of folks that, maybe they've seen a Kajabi commercial, maybe they did something on Udemy, maybe they did something on some learning thing on LinkedIn, and they go, oh, I could make a course. And some of these folks come to us thinking they want to make a course, but they really don't understand WordPress. They don't understand the basics of how a website works. And I think it's like super, super important to recognize that is completely okay. We're not going to make fun of you or anything. We won't laugh at you, at least not to your face. But we're here to help, right? So ask your question. Don't be afraid to ask it. And you should know that LifterLMS has a complete academy, and we have a course on getting started with WordPress. We have a getting started with LifterLMS. We have a how to grow your membership to the first 25 users or something that's in there too, right? Did I say it wrong or right? But there's a ton of content in there. And I just want to encourage people to take the first step, the whatever it is that's causing you to put something off, that's kind of over, right? You can make the decision and say, hey, Kurt said MVP. Everyone on the call agreed. So what is an MVP? What does that look like? How do I take the next step? And we can help you through that, either through our support, through calls like this, or joining our Facebook page, where we have a pretty darn active community that helps everybody get started.
Yeah, one more thing to add there is an hour from now, we do our office hours mastermind. So if you get the Universe bundle or Infinity bundle, Infinity is our top plan, and the Universe bundle is our next one down. You get access to a private live call like this, but it only happens on Zoom, and you're in the call with us, and we can get into more detail, more back and forth. So it's just one of the benefits of LifterLMS and what makes us different in the space in terms of how much we're here to help you and support you and engage with you live.
Well, and with that, folks, it is the top of the hour. So say goodbye.